With the long-awaited release of version 2.3 and the first anniversary of WutheringWaves, without a doubt most players would likely have their eyes on our new limited 5-star Zani. Although there will be quite a few players perhaps just as interested within the second phase for the release of Ciaccona. If not for her incredible design and goofy personality, maybe due to the fact that she is an extremely unique and valuable sub-DPS. So for those that are specifically interested in exactly what Ciaccona is capable of and the amount of value she holds, fortunately we do have Ciaccona's full kit revealed alongside the release of version 2.3. So with that, I'll be going through Ciaccona's kit breakdown, team synergies you may want to consider, viable echo builds, weapons that can be utilized, and then I'll be wrapping it up with Ciaccona's overall value and whether or not you should summon. As always, would really appreciate it if you could subscribe for more WutheringWaves content and drop a like if you enjoyed the video. Though just before we dive right in, if you are perhaps looking to pick up some Lunites to ensure you can pick up a specific character during the anniversary, then you will definitely want to check out this sponsor. Lootbar is a safe and reliable top-up platform that allows you to pick up game currency for an even lower price than in-game. Such as in WutheringWaves, you are able to pick up selected items with up to 21% off. So if you are thinking about picking up some Lunites or even just renewing your Lunite subscription, then you may as well pick it up from Lootbar and save some money. All you need to do is head to the website and click on whichever pack you would like to pick up, then fill out your game account details, choose your preferred payment method, and in a couple of minutes you will receive your Lunites. Also, it's fair to mention that the double top-up bonus will be provided even when going through Lootbar, so you aren't missing out. Lastly, as of now, new users are eligible for a 10% off coupon along with a bunch of other coupons for an extra discount. So again, if you are looking for a quick and safer way to pick up discounted game currency than other websites, be sure to check out Lootbar through the link in the description. Now Ciaccona is going to be our first limited aero sub DPS, and her kit will essentially revolve around the aero erosion mechanic, but she will in fact also be able to utilize the spectral frazzle mechanic. With that alone, it would allow Ciaccona to be quite flexible for her debuff character, given she would then be able to synergize with aero characters and spectral characters. Now kicking this off with Ciaccona's basic attacks, despite actually being a gun wielder, Ciaccona will deal a 4-hit basic attack string utilizing a rapier. Aside from the flashy animations, Ciaccona will inflict a stack of aero erosion on the final basic attack, along with starting a solo concert and generate an ensemble self to continue with the concert if Ciaccona is interrupted. Ciaccona is able to leave a max of 2 selves on the field, and the purpose for them would be that they do provide a 24% aero damage bonus to allies. So once you do switch Ciaccona off field for your supposed aero main DPS, they will receive a considerable 24% aero damage bonus once their self is on the field. Now regarding the resonant skill, it will be quite simple but very effective, considering Ciaccona will be able to dash forward on the ground or whilst in midair, and in doing so, she will deal aero damage and inflict a stack of aero erosion. Also, after using the resonant skill, Ciaccona's basic attacks will start from the second hit, which pretty much allows Ciaccona to inflict a stack of aero erosion on the 4th basic attack a bit sooner than usual. Though in addition to that, if Ciaccona was to interrupt one of her many abilities with her resonant skill, it will in fact be able to generate an ensemble self to provide that 24% aero damage bonus. Now the Forte circuit, like most characters, will be an integral aspect of Ciaccona's kit. Ciaccona's Forte gauge does consist of 3 stacks of musical essence, which can be obtained either through casting the final basic attack or the intro skill. Once Ciaccona has obtained all 3 stacks, the heavy attack quadruple downbeat will then be available to activate, and not only does it deal considerable damage, but it also applies a stack of aero erosion and crowd controls enemies. Now it goes without saying that this ability will be extremely valuable, as there aren't many characters that are able to crowd control. Especially in a mode such as Whimpering Wastes, a crowd control ability is quite useful to ensure enemies don't just wander off. So then with that alongside Ciaccona's second inherent skill, which essentially provides a considerable damage boost of 30% to the Forte ability, the heavy attack quadruple downbeat should be capable of dealing solid DPS, which leads to it overall being one of the most valuable aspects of Ciaccona's kit. Now as for Ciaccona's liberation, which is arguably the best liberation in the game, considering once you do activate it, Ciaccona will perform a concert alongside 2 ensemble sylphs. Now if you do remain as Ciaccona during the recital, alongside dealing damage there will be a QTE event which requires you to press 2 different buttons. In doing so, Ciaccona won't only receive additional concerto energy, but will also be able to inflict a stack of aero erosion or spectral frazzle. Additionally, Ciaccona's liberation has a unique feature of allowing you to switch to another character once the liberation is still active. With that, Ciaccona will stack the debuff that was last inflicted through the QTE. But if you didn't inflict any debuff through the QTE, then aero erosion would be automatically inflicted. On top of that, Ciaccona will, as expected, be immune to interruptions and takes 50% less damage when active. But also paired with the inherent skill that provides a shield equal to 100% of Ciaccona's health for 4 seconds, there really shouldn't be an issue with survivability during the beginning of Ciaccona's concert and at least the first QTE. Lastly, as Ciaccona does summon 2 ensemble sylphs beside her to perform, they will in fact be able to provide the 24% aero damage bonus. So alongside the amazing visuals and vocals, Ciaccona's liberation will be able to provide significant value, and especially towards aero DPS characters. Lastly, as for the intro and outro skills, the intro skill will allow Ciaccona to enter the field dealing damage along with being able to start from basic attack 3, which is pretty simple yet quite valuable as it will allow Ciaccona to inflict a stack of aero erosion with the final basic attack extremely quick. As for the outro skill, it allows Ciaccona to amplify aero erosion damage dealt by 100% for 30 seconds. Now, as there aren't any characters in the game aside from Ciaccona that can actually inflict stacks of aero erosion or deal damage scaling off it, it does mean for now the outro skill will be more or less useless. However, the value of this outro skill will certainly spike later on, similar to Phoebe's outro skill. Also, it should be a bit obvious to most of us now that this outro skill will be amazing for a certain someone that may release very soon. Now, speaking of team synergies, as mentioned earlier, Ciaccona will be capable of synergizing extremely well alongside aero characters and specific spectral characters. However, as for the potential best composition and who Ciaccona is essentially designed to play alongside, Carlotta, Ciaccona and Aero Rover will most likely be the best composition that features Ciaccona. Referring back to the outro skill, it is likely intended to amplify Carlottas damage, which I assume will scale off aero erosion damage as that would make the most sense. So that massive aero erosion damage amplification alongside a 24% aero damage bonus and the ability to crowd control enemies would likely allow Ciaccona to synergize incredibly well with Carlotta. Then of course, with Aero Rover being able to heal, increase the maximum stacks of aero erosion that can be inflicted, converts all debuffs including Ciaccona's Spectral Frazzle stacks into aero erosion stacks, alongside dealing considerable damage, the aero erosion team works together incredibly well and will without a doubt be one of the strongest compositions in the game. But unfortunately, or fortunately for those that may need to save up, the aero erosion team wouldn't be available until potentially version 2.4, more specifically when Carlotta does release. So until then, Ciaccona will of course be able to synergize with Jiyan alongside Aero Rover or any other support, given he will be able to definitely utilize the 24% aero damage bonus that Ciaccona provides. Additionally, if Ciaccona is equipped with the Gust of Welkin set, it will provide Jiyan with an additional 15% aero damage bonus. So given the aero damage bonus of 39% Ciaccona provides has near enough 100% uptime, it certainly allows Ciaccona to at least be a contender for the best in slot sub DPS for Jiyan. Now aside from Jiyan, Ciaccona will be able to synergize with both Zani and Phoebe, given they would both significantly benefit from the stacks of Spectral Frazzle Ciaccona inflicts. However, considering Phoebe is capable of already inflicting stacks of Spectral Frazzle by herself, it means Ciaccona would synergize alongside Zani a whole lot more, especially since Zani is able to convert stacks of Spectral Frazzle into Halai Calembers, which provides Zani with Blaze in the Inferno mode to fuel her enhanced abilities. So even though Phoebe would be the better sub DPS overall for Zani, Ciaccona will definitely be capable of replacing her as a viable sub DPS. So essentially, Ciaccona can synergize alongside Aero main DPS characters and Spectral characters that revolve around the Spectral Frazzle mechanic. But given there will be many future characters that revolve around debuffs in general, I wouldn't put it past Ciaccona to be able to synergize also with those characters in the future. Moving on to Ciaccona's viable echo builds, as I have already mentioned, the Gust of Vulcan set will provide a lot of value when Ciaccona is alongside an Aero main DPS. So if you do intend to utilize Ciaccona with Jiyan or with Kartathea when she does eventually drop, the Gust of Vulcan set will definitely be the set to go with. However, if you intend to utilize Ciaccona within a Spectral Frazzle composition, then of course the Gust of Vulcan set would lose a lot of value. So then, as for an alternative, the old reliable Moonlit Clouds would definitely be a viable option for pretty much any other team, considering it will allow Ciaccona to provide a 22.5% attack bonus to the next Resonator switching in. Also, if you are using the Impermanent Heron as the main echo, Ciaccona provides an additional 12% damage bonus after activating her outro skill. So the Moonlit Cloud set is still great for any sub DPS, as it will allow the main DPS to deal significantly more damage. Now another alternative echo build that would work for a main DPS Ciaccona would be the Sierra Gale set, given Ciaccona can achieve a total of 40% aero damage bonus with this set equipped. Although, as Ciaccona is designed to be a sub DPS, I really wouldn't suggest the Sierra Gale set unless you do want to play around with a main DPS Ciaccona. Now regarding the main stats and substats you would prioritize on Ciaccona's echoes, the 4 cost would require either crit rate or crit damage as usual, the 3 cost would want aero damage bonus with one of them likely getting by with attack percent, then the 1 cost echoes will just want attack percent but HP percent will be viable for a stronger shield on Ciaccona. As for the substats, just like any other sub DPS, crit rates and crit damage will of course be priority, then energy regen, attack percent and heavy attack damage for the Forte ability, or HP percent again for an even stronger shield from Ciaccona's inherent skill. Now lastly, as for the weapons that Ciaccona can utilize, before anything it goes without saying that the signature weapon will be Ciaccona's best in slot, especially considering it will definitely revolve around the aero erosion mechanic. Although, as for a few alternatives, the Static Mist will be an incredible alternative for a pure sub DPS build, considering not only does it provide a crit rate main stat, but the passive will also increase energy regen and provides a 10% attack bonus to the next Resonator switching in. So the weapon allows Ciaccona's crits to be much more consistent, liberations to be activated sooner, and for the main DPS to deal more damage. So for a standard banner weapon, the Static Mist will provide amazing value and is a weapon I assume many players may already have access to. The Last Dance will be another alternative, and considering it is Carlotta's signature weapon, it essentially allows Ciaccona to deal significantly more damage, since the main stat does provide a massive 72% crit damage bonus, along with the passive providing a 12% attack bonus and a 48% resonant skill damage bonus. So maybe not the most useful passive for Ciaccona in specific, but the attack bonus and crit damage bonus in particular allows the Last Dance to definitely be a viable option. Now, as those are the only 2 5-star pistols in the game, the Romance in Farewell and Relativistic Jet would then be a few 4-star alternatives. Both are viable options, but since Romance in Farewell is a craftable weapon that revolves around dealing damage to enemies with negative statuses, it will be much easier to obtain and would work quite well on Ciaccona. So with that, there aren't that many alternatives for Ciaccona, but since the Static Mist is the best alternative option and does in fact hold great value, as mentioned, most players may already have it or will be able to pick it up from the guaranteed weapon banner quite soon. Overall, Ciaccona is an incredibly unique sub DPS with a completely stacked kit. Given she does amplify aero and aero erosion damage, crowd controls enemies, deals considerable damage, and inflicts both aero erosion and spectral frazzle. Also, Ciaccona does have the most unique liberation in the game, which in specific may be the factor to sway players into pulling for her, or if you have PTSD from Robin in HSR to then maybe skip. Either way, just like every other sub DPS released so far, Ciaccona will provide immense long-term value, and especially considering she is tailored for Carlotta, it means she would be a meta sub DPS for quite some time. That is, if Carlotta does of course live up to her expectations. So with that, should you summon for Ciaccona? Well, if you do want to use Carlotta at her best, just like you would pick up Phoebe to utilize Zani at her best, then it would be a no-brainer to pick up Ciaccona. Although, with that said, just like how Zani is able to get by without Phoebe, the same will likely apply for Carlotta. So Ciaccona isn't a must for Carlotta, but of course would provide incredible value and would allow her to deal significantly more DPS. Additionally, the fact that Ciaccona does have potential to synergize with many other characters in the future that utilize debuffs, alongside current characters that utilize the Spectrofrazzle mechanic and Arrow main DPS characters such as Jiyan, Ciaccona essentially provides enough flexibility and future-proofing to guarantee value for your account. Though just like most characters, you don't have to summon for her on the initial release and can definitely pick her up later on. But if you do decide to pick her up within the second phase of 2.3, she will certainly be a great character to pick up and would only gain more value over time. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe for more WutheringWaves content, and if you enjoyed the video, drop a like. Also, drop a comment down below on your thoughts on Ciaccona and whether you will be picking her up in 2.3. And yeah, hope to catch you guys later.